welcome back. So today we're making a super easy recipe. It's super great for lunch or dinner. We are making classic Alfredo, so basically fettuccine Alfredo. So I'm gonna go over what you're gonna need for this recipe, and then we're gonna get started. So I myself have made a couple modifications to the recipe, and it's totally up to you whether you want to make those modifications as well. I will tell you what they are. But what you're gonna need is you're gonna need Parmesan cheese, 3 tablespoons of butter, salt and pepper, garlic, milk. You're gonna need flour, and then I'm going to top my pasta with fresh cut parsley. That's optional. And then you're gonna need fettuccine noodles, of course. So the modification that I have made is your recipe calls for 3/4 cups of cream and 3/4 cups of milk. If you want to add the cream, go ahead and do that as well. But my modification is I am using just milk. I find that Alfredo sauce using lots of cream is often a little bit too rich for me. So that's why I'm just gonna use milk for this recipe. But if you want to add the cream, then go ahead and grab that ingredient as well, and then we're gonna get started. Okay, so we're gonna get started on our Alfredo sauce. So that's what we're gonna do first. So I want you to grab a medium to large saucepan and put it on your stove. Now we're gonna turn it on to about medium heat. And then you're gonna grab 3 tablespoons of butter. Try and be as precise as you can. We're gonna add 3 tablespoons of butter to our saucepan. And we're gonna go ahead and let that melt completely. What you're gonna wanna get ready is your flour. For this recipe, we need 1 tablespoon of flour. And this butter mixed with flour acts as our something called a roux, which actually is going to make our sauce thicker. So we're gonna go ahead and let this melt completely in our pan. All right, so it's almost fully melted here. I'm gonna turn down my heat just a little bit. So go ahead and get ready 1 tablespoon of flour, because that's what we're gonna be adding here in just a few moments. This is a very simple recipe that I think anybody can do, and it's very quick to make as well. It's almost completely melted here. I'm gonna get ready my 1 tablespoon of flour. All right, my butter is completely melted here, and I'm gonna go ahead and add in 1 tablespoon of flour. And we're gonna cook this for about 30 seconds. Okay, now what I need you to do is get your garlic ready. And for this recipe, we need 1.5 teaspoons of garlic. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that. So there's 1 teaspoon of garlic, and now I need 1/2 teaspoon. And there's half a teaspoon. And now we're gonna stir this and cook this for another 30 seconds. Don't worry if it looks like it's bubbling. That's totally fine. It doesn't mean that it's burning or anything. Just make sure that you're stirring constantly. Okay, so this is where we're gonna start adding our milk and or cream. So as I previously mentioned, you can add 3/4 cups of cream if you want to, or you can use just milk. So if you're adding in cream, go ahead and add in the cream now, 3/4 cups. And then after that, you're gonna add 3/4 cups of milk. That's if you're adding both. For me, I am just substituting the cream for more milk. So in total, I'm going to be using 1.5 cups of milk. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. So go ahead and add your cream and your milk, or just your milk if you're using that. So that was 1 cup of milk. And I'm just going to mix this in. I'm gonna add my 1/2 cup of milk in just a second here. We're going to let this cook a little bit first. And you'll notice that as you stir here, it's going to kind of feel like it's thickening, and that's what we want. So we're gonna turn our stove back onto medium heat. And we're gonna wanna get it to the point where it's starting to simmer. And simmering means it is slowly bubbling and starting to thicken more. So just continue stirring here. So keep stirring. You want to be constantly stirring this. And we're just getting it to the point where it's simmering. And then once it's simmering, I'm going to add my extra 1/2 cup of milk. So as you might be able to see, it's starting to bubble. So it's starting to simmer here. And it's starting to get even thicker. Now I'm gonna add in my other 1/2 cup of milk slowly. So I added about half of it. My stove is still on medium heat. Now we're gonna add in the rest of our milk. And we're gonna continue stirring. Okay, so what I'm gonna add in now is salt and pepper to taste. So I'm just gonna take my pepper and crack a little bit of pepper in there. And then I'm gonna do the same thing with the salt. Just a little bit of salt in there. You can add more or less. It's totally dependent on how much you want in there. Okay, so now that we've added all of our milk, or if you did half cream, half milk, now that you've added all that, we are gonna get it back up to a simmer. It takes a little bit in between each addition because you're adding cool milk into a hot pan here, so it takes a bit to reheat. So we're just gonna continue mixing it for a couple more minutes. Okay, so I'm feeling it really start to thicken here. So we're actually almost done here. And then what we're gonna do is we're going to turn off our stove, and then we're gonna start adding our Parmesan cheese, which is really going to make the sauce thicken up more. And as it sits on the stove, it will thicken as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn off my stove. So my stove is turned off. And now we're gonna start adding our Parmesan cheese. Okay. So for this recipe, you need 1.5 cups of shredded Parmesan cheese. So I'm just using pre-shredded Parmesan cheese, and we're gonna do 1.5 cups. So go ahead and measure that out. I'm measuring mine out to the side here. Okay. So here I've got about 1 cup of Parmesan cheese, so I'm gonna go ahead and add that. Now I'm gonna measure out 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. And I'm doing heaping cups. So there's about a heaping 1/2 cup of cheese. So now we've got 1.5 cups of cheese on here, and we're gonna stir this in until it is completely melted into our sauce. Now we're gonna turn our stove back on to low heat as we stir in our cheese. It will help it melt a little bit nicer. Okay, so keep stirring in your cheese on low heat until it is completely melted through. And believe it or not, we're almost done this recipe. So as soon as this cheese is melted completely, you're going to actually put a lid on here and you're gonna let it sit on low heat on your stove until your pasta is done cooking. So I'm not gonna show you how to make the pasta because I want you to follow the directions on your box. So go ahead and do that once you're done your sauce here. Okay, so my cheese is melted all the way through now and it's getting quite thick, my sauce here. So I'm gonna put a lid on this and finish cooking my pasta. So I will be back to show you how you want to plate your fettuccine alfredo, and then I will be having a photo at the very end of what the final result looks like. So cover this, keep it on your stove on low heat, finish cooking your pasta, and we will be right back. Okay, so now that my noodles are done, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna add them directly into the pot where my sauce is. And then we're going to mix them together. So go ahead and do that now. So make just as many noodles as you think that you will need to feed your family. So we're just gonna mix it in like that. And then it's ready to go. I'm gonna add some fresh cut parsley to mine. And then it's ready to serve. So it's as simple as that. A very, very simple recipe that's great for lunch or dinner. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video. As always, send me a photo of your results and I will see you next time.